Hi, my name is Arshad Shaikh and I'm here to discuss the hijab issue that is being debated and discussed all over the country. If you want to know more about hijab, I strongly recommend that you visit Google and search and key in three words BBC, religion, and hijab. Type these three words in Google, and the first hit that you would get will fetch you a lot of good information about the hijab. Well, what is the hijab? The hijab is an Arabic word which means barrier or partition. But in the English speaking world, the hijab has got the meaning of head covering or a scarf, the head scarf that Muslim women wear. There are some keywords or there are some terminologies that one must understand in order to get a better perspective about the issue about hijab. One, as we said, the word hijab itself, which means partition or barrier. The other word that is used is parda. Parda, as you know, is a process of covering oneself. So, if I say that I'm doing parda, which means that I'm following a process of covering my body. There is another word called burqa, and this means the external garment that is worn by Muslim women. There are different words for that in different geographies. For example, in the Arab world, burqa is known as the abaya. In India and the subcontinent, it is known as burqa. And if you go to Iran, it is known as the chadar. Even in our own country, the women from the majority community wear what is known as the ghungat. So this is something similar to that. Then there is another term called the niqab, which is basically the face veil, which covers the face of the woman except her eyes. And then a very important term that you need to understand, and that is known as satar. Satar is the area of the body that always has to be covered, and that area is different for men and that for women. For men, satar is defined as the area between the navel up to the knees, but for a Muslim woman, the satar is her entire body except the face, the hands, and the feet. So that is her satar that has to be covered at all times. The only exception to that rule is her spouse, and similarly for a man. There is another term, important term related to hijab and related to the debate that is going on, and which is ghaze basar. Ghaze basar is an injunction which is enjoined on Muslim men and women, and which means they have to lower their gaze. They should not look lustfully at the other sex. They should not stare or gaze at them. They are told to lower their gaze. So these are some of the key terms about hijab. Hijab is basically a quest of the Muslim woman to guard her modesty, to protect her modesty, to emphasize her modesty. And that operates at two levels. One is the spiritual level, and one is the practical level. At the spiritual level, Islam gives a great deal of importance to a person's persona, the person's personality, the person's body. Islam does not want the person's personality to be objectified, to be commercialized, to become source of sexual gratification. It does not want that. It wants the human body also to operate at a very high level of spirituality. And to implement that philosophy, obviously there are some steps that have to be taken in practice and to implement that vision in practice. And that is why you have these external coverings and you have these injunctions to lower your gaze. So hijab is basically a quest. It's an attempt to practice that philosophy of modesty in the real world. Now, there's an important thing, which is whether hijab is essential practice or not. This is being debated even in the courts or in the judiciary. What we need to understand is that the injunction or the ruling or the command to do hijab is not only based on the Quran, because there are some people who say that the word hijab is not mentioned in the Quran, but one must understand that the legality or the legal injunctions that we have in Islam are not only from the Quran. It is from the Quran, it is from the Sunnah, which is the practice of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the practice of his noble companions, which were both male and female. So there is no evidence at all that the Quran and the Sunnah and the noble companions did not practice hijab. They all practiced hijab. They all did parda. They all abided by the spirit of lowering their gazes and covering up their body. So there's no debate. There's no question about having flexibility in that matter. So to conclude, we must understand that from a Muslim woman's perspective, it is absolutely revolting, it's absolutely preposterous for her to remove the hijab in public, to tell her to remove her burqa and come in public, because that goes against the grain of her belief, that goes against the grain of her religion, that goes against the basic tenets of her faith. And it is also akin to telling her to disrobe in public. It's an assault on her dignity, it's an assault on her modesty. It is telling her to do something which is absolutely against her faith. And we must avoid that. Let's think about this issue in a very empathetic manner. And if we try to alter the status quo, which is the allowance of Muslim women to don the hijab, to wear the burqa in public spaces, of which colleges and universities are very much a part of, then we are no longer going to remain a democratic society, we are no longer going to remain a sane society, and we are going to slip into the abyss of authoritarianism and going against the fundamental rights of our citizens to practice their faith. Thank you very much.